Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to do some more speaking feedback, some feedback on Humoyun's test. Let's get straight into it. All right, good afternoon. My name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Hello.
So notice there is some latency here, right? There's a gap between the question and the answer, and that's due to an internet connection problem. I do mention to candidates always, it's their responsibility to make sure the connection is stable. Unfortunately, maybe I'm too generous with this and I let candidates still continue with their speaking tests, but it is noticeable that there are connection problems here. But okay, I'm not going to talk about the connection problem anymore.
My name is Humoyun and my surname is Kaisbayev. You
And
can
what?
call me Humoyun.
Okay, thank you. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or do you study?
Actually, I'm neither student nor a worker
Cool, I like this. Neither nor that's good.
because I dropped out from university. I
Dropped out of university, not from, but dropped out of university. But still, hitting that phrasal verb, drop out.
took a gap year.
Took a gap year. That's, topic specific language. I imagine the candidate has kind of rehearsed this, right? The candidate knew before he came into the class, before he came into the test, that he was going to use this language, drop out, and took a gap year. But that's okay. The language is relevant here.
And currently, I'm working on my English
Cool. Working on, again, really, really nice phrasal verb. They're trying to improve something. I'm working on my English level.
English skills. I'm trying to.
But I do notice the candidate, it is, I wouldn't say that the language is coming out in a nice, natural, smooth flow of speech. The language is a little bit choppy, seems to be the candidate, relies a little bit on slow, mechanical speech.
Learn English, and
What do you like about learning English? So pay attention here. The question is, what do you like about learning English, right? So we want a direct answer to that. I want the candidate to tell me what he likes about learning English, but listen to this answer.
I guess learning English is quite difficult.
That's not an answer to this question. Do you find learning English easy or difficult? I think learning English is quite difficult. But what do you like about learning English? I think English is quite difficult. Not really an answer to the question.
Because of we are from like another country. It's the pronunciation is very difficult and the vocabularies
Yeah, vocabulary is not used in the plural form usually.
I have to like learn a lot of words.
In word is, so not word is, but words. That d and z is linked together. Words, not word is.
I can say it's tough.
Okay, tough as a synonym of difficult, fine. But again, we are just not on topic here, right? What do you like about studying English? And how do you think you will use English in the future? And again, notice the question, how do you think that you will use English in the future? The future. You have to make a prediction about the future. How do you think you will use English in the future? Notice the answer.
I think yes.
I think yes. So we don't say I think yes in English. I think so. I don't think so instead of I think yes, I think no. But this isn't a yes or no question, right? How do you think you will use English in the future? I think yes.
Because I have used this language.
And then I have used, candidate is talking about the past. So, we get a yes answer to an open question, and then we get the candidate talking about the past when it's a question about the future. Now, of course, sometimes, we do this, right? Oh, are you planning to go on holiday next year? I've just been on holiday, so no. You could mix up the times sometimes. But again, I'm all for simplicity and to make things easier for everybody. If it's a question about the future, talk about future time. If it's a question about the past, talk about past time. If it's a question about the present, talk about present time. So, just having that monitor inside your head that recognizes immediately, okay, this is a yes no question, or this is an open question, this is a how often question, this is a when question, this is a do you like question, this is a why question, this is a question about present time, about future time. Having that monitor that can understand, okay, it's a why question, I should use because. It's a past time question, I should use past tenses. It's a how often question, I should use like frequency words like twice a week or often or very often or hardly ever. Yeah, we don't quite get this coherence from this candidate for these opening questions.
I have worked as an dispatcher on the logistics, but I'm trying to take an IELTS exam because I'm like planning to teach children.
So we do finally get that I'm taking an IELTS exam because I'm planning to teach children. But again, that would be a question of why are you taking the IELTS exam, right? It's not how will you use English in the future. The easiest answer to this is, well, I'm planning to be an English teacher in the future. So, I will use English as part of my everyday job. That would be a direct answer. Let's talk about dancing now. Do you like dancing? And I'm sorry for this topic. I would hate to have this because I don't like dancing at all. And if for me in part one, if I was asked, "Do you like dancing?" I would think like, "Oh no." But we have to be ready for all kinds of topics in part one, even though they are personal questions about us. They might be about some things that we don't like.
Actually, no, I don't. Dancing is
I like the answer. No, I don't. That's a nice use of auxiliary.
not my type of thing.
And then dancing is not my cup of thing, type of thing. What was it?
Thing.
Sorry, I just
Uh,
want to go back.
Actually, no, I don't. Dancing is not my type of thing.
I think not my type of thing, maybe he's saying, but I can't quite make it out.
Uh, just I can't move my parts
I can't move my parts. Again, I'm not quite sure. Do you mean your body parts or I can't move my parts? Don't quite understand that.
when the song is going on. Yeah.
And in what situations do you or people usually dance?
Uh, in my country, people always dance at the weddings, I guess, because there will be a lot loudly music
Loud music, not loudly. Loudly is an adverb. Loud music.
to dance and they can enjoy the sound of it
Do you
because of
like
the loud
answers are a little bit short, aren't they? We just get like a set one sentence, two clauses for most of the answers.
sound.
Do you like watching other people dance?
Yes, I do because
Okay, nice use of auxiliary. Yes, I
I
do.
said I couldn't dance. That's why I just watch them how to dance. Like, yeah,
Again, answers just very short. And it's okay to have, one or two or three or even four short answers, but we want some answers that show a willingness to develop, a willingness to go a little bit deeper, right? So, for example, as I've already said, I don't like dancing, and that's why I like watching other people dance, especially, like I said, at weddings. I'm not the type of person that likes going to concerts and likes watching professional dancers. Like, I know some people like going to the ballet and watching these people, but that's not really my type of thing. That's a bit more development. All right, let's talk about people's names now. And let's talk about your name. Do you like your name?
yes, I do. It's given me by my grandmother.
It is given me. Present time, usually. Your grandmother usually gives you this name, or it was given to me by my grandmother.
It's Persian name,
It's passion name again. I don't know what that means. It's passion name.
and it's named after like one of the
It is named after. Maybe I was named after, or this name comes from, perhaps.
uh, kings of Indian. Yeah,
Kings of Indian. So again, India is the country, right? So a king of India or some kings of India, but Indian is the adjective. And so we get quite a lot of basic grammar mistakes, which some of them kind of potentially impede understanding here. And is it easy? And again, the answer is still a little bit short, just for you to remember other people's names.
Actually, I can't.
Get this actually again. The candidate started by saying, actually, I'm neither a student nor a worker. And I thought, okay, that's the correct use of actually. That's a good use of actually. Because, like, there's an expectation that the person will be a student or a worker. Actually, I'm neither a student nor a worker. And that's fine. But now I've noticed the candidate is overusing actually and is just using it for, I don't know, just a like parasite language or something like this. So do be careful with how often you use actually.
Can't quite remember the names of others at first, like when I listened to them at first.
When I listen to them at first. So chunking is a little bit off here. When I listen to them at first. So the grouping of the language is quite odd. Again, it is a little bit staccato, a little bit mechanical, just a little.
But after like hearing once or twice, I'll remember them quickly.
That's nice. So candidate does show intonation in some places. In some places, the intonation is quite natural, quite nice. In other places where the fluency breaks down, then the pronunciation becomes more staccato, more mechanical. And you will see throughout the test, there's not much range in terms of the candidate's intonation. Sometimes the intonation is fine, but you don't really get a range of emotion between like when you don't see when the candidate is excited about something or when the candidate is sad about something or confused about something or confident about something or not sure about something. All of these emotions usually are expressed through our pronunciation. With this candidate, it kind of stays in that one zone throughout the test. And do you know anyone who has an unusual name? So this latency isn't just internet problems, I guess. This is something more.
No, I don't know anyone whose name is unusual because I got used to the names of my country, and that's why I can't hear like unusual names a lot.
I don't know about this. I don't like what I call like avoidance tactics, right? Um Now, the candidate is probably just being honest here. Probably the candidate thought about it and thought, like, yeah, I just don't know any unusual. I don't know anyone who has an unusual name. I find it difficult to believe, even if it's not like super unusual for you. I find it difficult to believe that not once in your life have you met someone and thought, like, oh, that name's a little bit unusual. Or maybe there is a name that might be unusual, like for foreign ears or something, right? Like, what we often see with lower level learners, and I'm not saying that this is true for this candidate, but in order to avoid being judged on their language, they try to avoid answering questions. So, what do you do in your free time? Oh, I don't have much free time. Okay, what did you do yesterday? Nothing. Did you go out or did you stay at home? I stayed at home. What did you do? Nothing. Okay, did you eat something? Yeah. What did you eat? I don't remember. And it's like, okay, but you if you don't produce language, you can't be marked positively on that language, right? So, if you ask me, do you know anyone who has a strange name? I could say, personally, no. I'm from Wales, and a lot of people have very common names like, Gareth or Rhys or Sean or something like this. But in North Wales, we do have some names that might be considered unusual for people from England. For example, there's one guy I know called Rhyn, right? And Rhyn, and this has some strange Welsh pronunciation features. And for me, the name Rhyn is absolutely fine because it's a typical Welsh name. But I know a lot of English people that just can't pronounce his name. Like they call him Rhyn or Ryan. They just can't say Rhyn. And this is an example where I don't know anyone. I don't find any names unusual, but I'm able to develop my answer more than just saying, no, I don't know anyone with a strange name because I got used to all the names in my country. Yeah, so not enough development there, sorry. And how would you feel if someone forgot or mispronounced your name? Again, there's latency here. And again, notice the question is, how would you feel? How would you feel hypothetically?
I don't feel
I don't feel. So candidate uses this like indicative I don't feel rather than that hypothetical I wouldn't feel. So there is a lack of just a mismatch in coherence there.
sad or anything, but I just try to
And again, pronunciation is a bit staccato. Just notice the rhythm of the speech here. Just listen to it again.
think, but I just try to
But I just try to, it's just a bit mechanical.
like teach them how to pronounce it.
Go teach somebody how to do something. Beautiful construction.
And yeah, it makes me a bit angry
It's a bit strange because the candidate says, I don't feel upset. And now he's saying it makes me angry. So that's kind of confusing.
when I do that, but it's okay.
Okay, it makes me angry when I teach people how to say my name. So when people mispronounce your name or don't remember, it doesn't make you upset, but then you teach them how to say it properly and that makes you angry. So I find that very difficult to follow. Again, I'm maybe I'm the stupid one, I'm sorry.
To pronounce it correctly at the first time.
Okay, thank you. Now, in this next part of the test, all right, so just a few comments on part one here. Candidate more or less answers questions more or less coherently, although there are a few lapses in coherence. Had that question about the future where he talked about the past. You had that question about, like, what do you like about studying English? And he talks about what's difficult. A few questions are a little bit underdeveloped. Candidate does rely on slow speech. Sorry. The candidate does rely on slow speech a lot to get his point across. Yeah, a few, some grammatical, some bits of grammar decent, like teach somebody how to do something. I really like that. But then we have other things like, what was it? I am given this name by my grandmother, or my name is given by my grandmother, or something like this. There was some strange mix match in present and past, or something like this, and a few grammar mistakes kind of led to misunderstandings. Vocabulary, again, I would say generally sufficient to deal with the task on a basic level, but because of the lack of development, you can't really award higher marks for vocabulary. You can't say that the candidate demonstrates, a great deal of style and collocation and things like this, just because the candidate, I feel, isn't producing enough language. And that also will limit the grammar score, right? If your answers are short, and you don't produce, we don't want to go too long, we don't want to be too short, but we want to find that golden zone. And for me, candidate answers are just a little bit too short. Pronunciation, easy enough to understand the candidate, some flashes of decent intonation, not always sustained. When the fluency breaks down, then the pronunciation also becomes quite mechanical. Yeah, and how comfortable does the candidate feel answering the questions? I would say reasonably comfortable. I don't think he's really broken down or struggled with this, so definitely not below B1. I can already say not below B1. But now in part two and part three, we'll think, the candidate is definitely not at C1, no doubt about that. So now I'm just thinking, well, is the candidate closer to B1 or closer to B2? Candidates, is he 5.0, 5.5, or 6.0? I don't think he's higher than 6.0. I don't think he's lower than 5.0, probably, unless something catastrophic happens. But let's continue. So in task two, the candidate will need to describe a time when people near him made a lot of noise. So I always mention this, that when you have these part twos that are connected to past time, great. If you know your grammar, if you know the conventions of telling stories, this is great for you because it's a narrative. You get to use past simple, past continuous, past perfect. If you want past perfect continuous, you can use some past modals, you can use some reported speech, lots of opportunities, reporting verbs, lots of opportunities to hit a lot of grammar here for higher level students. If you're kind of, upper intermediate, if you want to get that 6.0, 6.5, you still want to show a bit of a range, a bit of past simple, bit of past continuous, maybe a little bit of reported speech. If you're just intermediate, you'll probably just use, past simple a lot and then forget to use past simple a little. But let's see. A lot of noise. Your 1 minute to remind you. Start speaking now, please. Okay, here we go.
I'd like to talk you about the
Okay, I'd like to talk you. Talk you? Do we talk someone? I'd like to tell you about, I'd like to talk about, I'd like to say something about, but not I'd like to talk you about.
lousy music
Loudy music? Again, loud music, not loudy.
sounds in my neighborhood that happened. It was a week ago, I guess, and it was very loud that it's made me angry.
It was very loud that it made me angry. It was so loud that it made me angry. So that like cause and effect. So da 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 that da 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 da. Not very da 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 that da 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 da.
And I had to like
Okay, getting some past. It was. I had to.
just uh, go there, go there and try to check it.
Oh, but that means try to check it. I had to go there and try to check it. I don't know what check it means here.
It was
Cool. Again, past time it was.
one of my neighbor's birthday. His name is called Jamshid,
So his name is called. His name is, or he is called, but not his name is called.
and it was very loud music.
Again, loudy music, repetition of vocab, and especially when you repeat mistakes, it becomes very noticeable. We don't say loudy in English. Loud music.
And I just can't talk with them
So now we're into the present. I just can't talk with them. This happened in the past, right? So it should be I just couldn't talk with them.
because of that loud noise, but they were like dancing a
Okay, now some nice past continuous. They were like dancing.
lot. And after like joining them a couple of minutes, I
Not minutes. So we had this word is and now minute is, but words and minutes. So there is a small problem with sometimes the plurals. The candidate wants to add is instead of just s or z.
tried to explain them that my families are being disturbed.
My families are being disturbed. Again, are we talking about present time or past time? And also, how many families do you have? My families are being disturbed. A good attempt at present continuous passive here. Not many people get present continuous passive correct. My families are being disturbed. But again, I'm just unsure about this plural family. My family members, my relatives are being disturbed, but my families are being disturbed.
At that time and they can't like relax.
They can't relax. Present time or past time?
That's why I try to like
Tried to. Now, sometimes when we say tried to in the past, because we have that to, sometimes that D disappears, right? So I tried to tell them sounds like present, but it's absolutely fine in terms of connected speech pronunciation. Tried to. Tried to. Yeah, so it's fine. Sorry.
tell him that can you like please
I tried to tell him, like, can you please? Let's just finish that sentence.
turn the volume a little bit down.
So I tried to tell him, can you turn the volume down? So again, we would expect this kind of more often with B1 candidates that you revert to direct speech. I tried to tell him, like, can you turn the volume down? What might be slightly more appropriate is, using some reported speech, like I asked him if he could turn the volume down, or using a reported request, I asked him to turn the volume down, as opposed to I told him, can you turn the volume down? I just noticed that's a simplification of the grammar. So, is it a problem to use direct speech? Absolutely not. Sometimes we use direct speech, that's no problem. But for me, it might just be, a signal that the candidate is trying to simplify the grammar because the candidate lacks, that verb pattern asked somebody to do something, or the reported question asked him if he could do something. Yeah.
because and they fortunately they understand me and
Again, they understand me. We're back into the present. Are we talking about present or past?
uh, just keep it like a bit down, and
Just keep it a bit down. Again, we're in the present.
there wasn't any
Now we're back to the past.
noise then, and my family can relax
My family can relax now or in the past.
like after like that.
Okay, so noticeably the candidate is struggling here, right? In part one, he got his answers out with relative ease, I would say. Part two, it is noticeable that the candidate is really finding this difficult. The candidate managed to speak for about 1 minute and 40 seconds, but the candidate relied a lot on slow speech and a bit of a repetition of language and kind of mixing present, got some past time right, used past continuous right, but then drifted back into present time, which again shows me that, the candidate can't consistently control basic past tenses. Some of them are fine, not a terrible. The accuracy isn't terrible, but it is limited, and certainly I would not expect a B2 student of mine not to know the difference between the verb forms in the present and the verb forms in the past. I wouldn't expect my B2 students to accurately use all of these different tenses together. I would expect them though not to use present simple when talking about the past. So yeah, that's for me that grammar there is lower than band six. But let's keep going. Okay, thank you. So you've been talking about a time when people near you made a lot of noise. Let's talk about noises now. What noises do a lot of people find annoying?
Uh, I think people can find lousy musics
Again, we're back to this loudy music. So again, music is not a singular countable noun. It doesn't have a plural form of musics. Loud music, not loudy musics. And again, notice the repetition. Can sometimes, it is a point in fluency that if you have to rely on repeating the same idea over and over, it limits your fluency. The candidate spoke about loud music in part two. It's time to move on and talk about some other things that people might find annoying.
annoying because it can like injure their like it can impact it can be
So notice the reformulation. It can injure their, it can impact, it can be, so we get, three reformulations, oh, sorry, two reformulations there.
it can impact on
Three reformulations.
the hearing problems like
I'll just show you that reformulation again, just in case you missed it. So notice how many times, how many attempts the candidate makes to say, like, it can impact on.
it can like injure their like
One,
it can
two,
impact it can be
three,
it can impact
four.
on the hearing problems
And usually, I know some people use impact on as a verb, but usually it can impact their hearing. Yeah, but most importantly, four attempts to get out that phrase.
like they might end up hearing nothing
Cool. I love this use of end up. This is a really nice phrasal verb. They might end up hearing nothing. Candidate does demonstrate some good vocab. There's just not enough of it.
because of that they don't like loudy musics. Yes.
Again, we're back to loudy music. So, you know, at least 4 or 5 times now between part two and part three, we've heard this mistake: loudy musics, loudy musics, loudy musics, loudy musics, loudy musics. Can you think of any other noises? You mentioned loud music in your part two. Are there any other noises that people really find annoying? So, yeah, you can probably see what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to get the candidate off that one topic and just want to see how he deals with, exploring or widening the scope.
Yes, there are, I can say, the
If you're looking for ideas, well, some people don't like the sound of traffic. If you go to a coffee shop, for example, right, those coffee machines are incredibly loud. If you have neighbors, sometimes they're doing some like repair work at home, so they might use drills or something like that. Other times, your neighbors, if they're moving furniture around, that can be super loud and annoying. Babies crying. I know, we should all be sympathetic, of course, and we shouldn't let it annoy us, but unfortunately, it is an annoying thing. If you're on a flight and there are babies crying, that's a noise that people don't like. So, there are lots of things here. One thing I can't do for candidates is to, remind them of very obvious things. Many candidates say they have a problem with idea generation, and I can never quite understand that. I've never, even in all my years of being a language learner, when people ask me what are some annoying sounds, at least I don't have a problem thinking of annoying sounds. I don't know why some candidates suffer with idea generation. It's something they need to explore. I don't know.
noise of cars and bumping noises.
Okay, cool.
But in my hometown, you can't like happen to see all of them because
Yeah, and a nice attempt at happen to. Happen to is like accidentally or unintentionally. Oh, I happened to see John the other day. I don't know how it happened, but I happened to. But you can't happen to. It just sounds a bit odd here. A nice attempt, but not quite successful.
there are not very much cars, not many cars.
Cool, candidate corrects much and many there.
That's why I haven't mentioned that kind of noises.
Again, we get that kind of noises. Those kinds of noises, perhaps, or that kind of noise maybe is better. Okay. And do you think most towns and city nowadays are noisier than they were in the past?
Yes, I think so because
Cool. I think so. Nice, nice, nice.
uh, increase because uh,
See here, the candidate is kind of struggling with language, right? Increase wants to use that increasing or something like this, or an increase in.
create because uh, numbers of vehicles have increased. That's why
Again, increased. Again, we get that id sound after increase, and it should be increased with a t. So candidate does have, some problems after that s that he wants to use id or is or something like this.
even at night you just can listen to noisy musics
You can just listen the noisy musics. Again, the chunking, the grouping of words isn't quite appropriate. Canada's pronunciation is generally easy to understand, but it is just too mechanical, and the chunking is inappropriate in large parts.
and bumping noises that cars make.
I don't know what that bumping noise is. I'm not sure what that is. And what
It
kinds of
is more much noisy.
what kinds of places do you think should be noise free?
Uh, I guess public places like
The candidate's internet is breaking down here.
gardens should be like that because this kind of place is made because of relaxing. That's why
This kind of place is made because of relaxing, maybe are made to relax. purpose instead of reason, maybe.
People shouldn't like listen any loud music
And we're back to loudy musics.
here. They just have to visit there to relaxing,
Again, too relaxing. To relax.
to relax. Yeah.
Ah, what? Yeah, cool. What do you think should happen to these people if they make a lot of noise in these places? So that's a really difficult question. How do we police this, right? And again, who's thought about that before in their life, right? About how we should punish people who are noisy in gardens. A difficult question. You can't prepare for that. You just can't prepare for that type of question. And again, in terms of ideas, you could say, well, we can't really do much. All you can do is really put signs up and hope that people will be polite. Maybe you can expect other people to kind of police it, that, we could let other people know that it's okay to tell these people, or maybe you want to be stricter, maybe you want to employ security guards, and security guards will also walk around the park looking for people who are making noise, and then if those people are making noise, then you go in there and you kick them out, and if they refuse to leave, you call the police and you give them a fine. All of these are possible punishments or ways of controlling this. Yeah, but let's see. And again, it's noticeable that the candidate's stuck here, and it's like, I have no idea. But verbalize that. If you're not sure, verbalize it. Oh, I don't know how you can police it. In general, I think it's a good idea if people don't make the noise, but I really don't know what to do if people are making noise, because it's tricky, isn't it? Like, it seems strange to call the police. All of these might be ideas that are going on in the candidate's head. In part three, it's an important thing to verbalize your confusion, to verbalize your doubts, to verbalize the things that you're not sure about, instead of sitting. It's okay to take a little breath, absolutely fine, okay to take a little moment, but we don't want to wait too long, and we don't need to find the right answer. We don't need to think, okay, what is the optimal punishment for people who are loud in gardens? You don't need to provide that answer. We just need to speak on topic.
Uh, I guess uh,
Really clear, right? That the candidate is trying to find that optimal punishment for people who are loud in gardens and can't quite produce an idea. That's fine, but verbalize this.
how can I say? They should be disallowed, like using that kind of noisy instruments like cars or
Cars in gardens?
maybe like musical instruments.
I don't know if that's the most common source of noise in gardens. Is it cars and musical instruments? Maybe it is.
They should be banned. And
Cool. Again, band with a d, not with an id. So not banded. So we've noticed this a few times that with the plurals, the candidate wants to use is or is, like word is, minute is. And now we get this banned, and earlier we also had disturbed. So the candidate maybe struggles with consonant clusters and always wants to add an extra vowel where it's not necessary.
and yes, they should be banned because of using it in peace.
To be banned for using it, not because of. Oh, sorry.
And yeah, at special days,
Sorry, I think I've skipped forward a little bit, but let's just keep listening.
yeah.
And okay, I think we'll listen just to one more question. Sport events usually noisy places in your country? So are sports events usually noisy places in your country? Again, there is an internet connection problem, so it's not all silence. Yeah,
Yes, there are,
there are, but yes, they are.
because at the beginning of every sports events, there will be like
Event, not event. Event. Stress on the second syllable. Event.
music, dancing, but then it will like stop and they will be quite peaceful that people can enjoy the events of sports.
Again, the sports events, they could be noisy because the crowd could be cheering, or they could be really happy when somebody scores a goal, or maybe you can hear the players shouting at each other. Maybe at times you can even hear the referee. Though that sort of vocab could be activated here, and the candidate again goes back to this music. But I think I'm gonna leave it there and go into feedback. So fluency and coherence, I think we can award the 5. Don't think it's quite at a 4, but it's not. It is, it's a low 5. It's either a high 4 or a low 5. I generally try to be as generous as I possibly can. So I will say, in general, you try to speak at length. However, it is noticeable that this is more difficult for you in parts 2 and 3. Some questions, some answers lack coherence, in that they don't always match, the answer doesn't always match the question. You often rely on slow speech and repetition to extend your answers. Cool. And that feels like band 5. Low band 5, but I think, enough for a band 5. Lexical resource, I do think you have 6 for this. So while it would be nice to hear more language from you, you do produce relevant vocab to deal with the questions. Some vocab is quite precise, like drop out you used. Happen to wasn't very accurate, but it was a nice, rangy bit of vocab. There was another thing, end up doing something you used. Some vocab is quite precise, like drop out, end up doing something. But there were some minor inaccuracies. Again, I had to go there to check, and I wasn't quite sure what check meant there. So, there were a few cases where your vocab choices just led to slight strain on the listener. But I do think you have enough for a 6. Grammatical range and accuracy, I'm going to go with 5 for this. For me, just not. There are flashes of good range. Like you used past continuous once, you used like a should be banned, like a passive infinitive with a modal. Use present continuous passive, like are being disturbed. So flashes of good range, but these are limited. There are also too many basic mistakes with foundational grammar, like not showing the difference. Oh, I won't mention that. Fundamental grammar. Basically, if you have to talk about the past, sometimes you use present tense verbs. I'm not sure why that happens, because I know you are better than this. But for me, 5 for grammatical range and accuracy. For pronunciation, I think I'm going to award the 6. Firstly, most importantly, your speech is relatively clear. And your tone, I will say, your tone is quite pleasant. You have some nice intonation in some parts, it's quite pleasant. When your fluency breaks down, your pronunciation becomes quite mechanical. You also have a habit of overusing id and is, disturbed minutes instead of disturbed and minutes. So for me, 6. So this means that you are 5.5. I wasn't sure 5.0 or 5.5. An examiner might reduce your pronunciation to 5. They might find that it's too staccato, and so that might give you a 5. So for me, this performance overall is between 5.0 and 5.5, maybe just enough for the 5.5, just enough for that lower end of the lower end of upper intermediate B2. For me, your speaking level is, probably, if I was just giving an impression mark, if I just had to listen to you speak and I had to give a mark of like A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, I would say B1. But it turns out from the IELTS band descriptors, my marks here give you 5.5, which is the lower end of B2. But again, the marking isn't always, the final mark isn't always the most important thing. Understanding your feedback, finding things to work on and trying to make improvements, that's, the best usage of this experience. Areas of improvement, make sure that your responses match the questions. That's the most basic thing. In any interview, the answers should match the questions, and your answers don't always do that. I would say also you really could benefit from more speaking practice. Some candidates I feel have too much speaking practice and I want their noses in books. Other candidates I feel maybe their noses are in the books too much and they need to kind of have this experience of using English. I imagine, it would be if you were using English in a social situation, there could be some strain on the listener. Your slow speech might make a normal listener a little bit impatient, thinking like, come on, get on with it, go faster. Doesn't mean that you have to speak super fast, but I think you could benefit from that speaking practice. That might speed up your language production a little bit. Some of your answers, I'd say too many of your answers are short and lack extra detail. Just thinking about how you can add a bit of extra detail. And yeah, you have to eliminate more of your basic mistakes, because I know in your brain the difference between present simple and past simple. So that's a question for you to ask yourself. Why, if I know that I should use past tense for past time and present tenses for present time, why do I make these mistakes? So that's something for you to think about. Yeah, those are just a few areas of improvement. But like I say, overall for me, 5.5. In the real test, I wouldn't be surprised if the candidate got 5.0. I wouldn't be surprised if the candidate got 6.0. Maybe grammatical range and accuracy, the candidate could raise that to a 6. Fluency and coherence, fluency will be difficult to raise to a 6. Coherence, the candidate definitely could do that. So yeah, maybe the candidate could get a 6.0. 6.5, I don't see it. I don't see two areas here where the candidate can get 7. I just don't see it. Maybe lexical resource, candidate might have enough for a 7, but I don't see anywhere else really where the candidate can get a 7. And so for me, 6.0 is probably the ceiling. But yeah, those are just my thoughts. I could be wrong. I've been wrong a few times in the past. Who knows? Let me know if you agree or disagree with my marking. If you have any comments for me, again, do let me know. If you would like your own free IELTS practice speaking test with this level of feedback, all for free, or if you'd like me to check your IELTS writing tasks, you can request this on my Telegram channel, Expert Examiner. I'm also trying to do weekly free IELTS lessons, so if that's something that's interesting for you, just so I can kind of, give more people a chance at something. Anyway, if that's interesting, check out the Telegram channel. A link to the channel is given in the description below. More videos coming soon. Have a wonderful day and see you. Bye bye.